Hang on, my internet's going very slow. Okay, guys, we are live. After a 2 week break, we had intentions of coming back last week, but we kind of really didn't want to. We couldn't get the motivation to do it. I was actually kind of wore out from 2 games back to back of very intense matchups between Shiner and Refugio, and then Flower Bluff and Vets, and my dopamine levels kind of dropped off there towards the end. So it was a little struggle. But with us today, as advertised the last couple of days, is Dave Campbell's Texas Football's Matt Stepp, the Texas high school football guru. How you doing, Matt?
What's up, fellas? How are y'all?
Pretty good.
Getting ready for state championship week. It's a big week for us at Dave Campbell's, and it's a big week if you're a high school football fan. And I'm trying to get as much sleep as I can the next couple of days because sleep is going to be at a premium starting tomorrow night.
Dude, I bet.
Do you start off the 6A games, or do you? I mean, the 6-man games, or do you just come in on the 7 o'clock and that's when you start covering?
So there have been years that I've gone to the 6-man games, but this year I won't be. I'll be at my day job until I might make the second half of the last 6-man game. But the day job, I can't. I couldn't. I'm taking vacation when I go to Canada after the state championship, so I had to. How it is when you got a straight gig, you got to kind of balance the two, and so I got to work on Wednesday, so I'll probably be there maybe second half of the second game.
You just mentioned something. So your full time job. So you don't
Straight gig, yeah.
You don't do this full time, huh?
No, this is my side piece. This is my Sancha. This is a hobby for me. It's a passion, for sure. And it's a hobby, and I do it because I love it. I mean, I get paid a little bit now, and it's vacation money for the most part for the wife. But yeah, it's something that I love to do, and I did it for free for a long time. So it's clearly something that it's a passion of mine. I'm not sure I could get away with doing it for free now. My wife would probably murder me. But it's something that I love to do. It's a lot of fun. But I do have a 9 to 5 big boy job. Actually, it's more like a 6 to 3 big boy job. And
Those are the ones to have.
I do wear a backwards hat to work, but once I walk in the building, I take the backwards hat off because it's a little bit more it's a professional environment. And when when the direct deposit hits, if they say take your damn hat off and you walk in the building, then what I do? Got bills to pay.
Oh, we can relate. We can relate. We're not supposed to have beards at work. So this whole mask thing is kind of working out pretty well for us right now.
Okay.
We got a lot of habitual line crossers down there, and one is in the room with us. I'll leave him nameless right now.
He's hiding
But
if he's wearing a mask, no one's gonna see, right?
Video effect. It's a video
yeah.
effect.
Yeah.
Dan, if you're watching, it's not real.
No, I was
Oh
curious
man.
what got you into it, man. I was always because for the longest time I thought this was your full time. You were into the media, and that's what you came out with. And it's kind of neat to know that you started this off as a hobby, kind of like how me and Jacob picked it up a couple years ago. And I mean, we do it for free too. Like it's just part of, I guess, being around the game, right? Is what makes
Yeah.
it worth not it kind of working for free, right? But I mean, heck, you've taken off, and you're one of the main guys, honestly, when it comes to all the high school football talk throughout the year and in the off season. So kind of blew up nicely for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a common. I mean, obviously, I'd be lying if I said I didn't work hard and all those cliche type things. But also, I kind of got into it right at the right time. I'm really, I think, a product of good timing in a lot of ways because I don't have a journalism background, but I kind of got into this, in the early 2000s, like 2004, when the internet and high school football message boards are really taking off. And people started seeing my stuff on various message boards, and I guess a lot of the predictions and the write-ups that I had were things that people, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. They're coming true a lot of the time. and I kind of hooked on with Rivals.com and Texas Prep Extra back in the day, and with Alan Zapata, who hired me out of the Houston area, and then I worked with Matt Diggs out of Plano, and it was kind of one of those things where it just kind of slowly started to take off. It didn't happen overnight for sure, and then I bounced around from different website to different website, just slowly kind of started to build up, like a reputation and a following, and then when I, getting to Dave Campbell's was like a dream come true. I mean, because everyone, Dave Campbell's is the place to be. And I grew up reading Dave Campbell's magazine. And so when Greg Tepper and Max Thompson hired me at DCTF, it was kind of, for me, the pinnacle. Like that's like a destination for me. I don't want to do anything else but work for Dave Campbell. So I'm fortunate. I think I'm lucky in a lot of ways, but this is a relationship business, and I think building those relationships has really helped me in the past, and being a man of my word, and gaining the trust of coaches. Because you guys deal with coaches, they're different cats. They don't trust you if you're a face on the internet. Like, they need to see you and shake your hand and size you up and kind of see what you're about in person. And once they do that, they usually they'll get down with you. But if you don't come out there, they don't see you in person, you're just a guy on Twitter or a voice on the phone, they're a lot less likely to trust you. So I think getting out, being one of the first guys to cover 7-on-7 extensively in the summer, and because I was taking the motto "work smarter, not harder," right? And instead of going to visit 16 schools and visit 16 coaches, why don't I go to a 7-on-7 where the 16 coaches are going to come to me, and start to kind of build up through that. So that really helped me in the early days getting going.
Gotcha. Did you grow up? When you were growing up as a kid, stuff was that something you were really big into? Was like following high school football across the state? Because I know that's something I was huge into it. Like, I followed.
I was a nerd.
Yeah, I was the same way, nerd.
Yeah,
like,
I was a nerd.
So tell you all kinds of stuff across the state, and that was before the internet was my friend. So
yeah, I was a big nerd. So like my dad, that was the one thing that that we grew up. I grew up doing, and I looked forward to on Friday nights, is we'd go watch the Everman Bulldogs play. I went to Everman. I grew up in South Fort Worth, and Everman was, even in when I was a little kid in the 80s, they were loaded, man. They were really good, and they were good all the way through the 90s up through when I was in high school, and they've been good pretty much for 40 my entire life. They've never been bad. I think 4-6 is like the worst season they've had since I've been alive. And so we would go on Friday nights and go. Now, we were poor. We couldn't go to TCU games. We couldn't go to Cowboy games, and we couldn't even afford to go to the Everman games. My dad was cheap. We'd go sit behind the end zone on top of his truck and watch the game from the road behind the stadium. And then at halftime, when the ticket takers went away, we'd walk into the stadium, and it was free at that point. So, but I grew up loving the Everman Bulldogs, and popping open the newspaper and sitting on the floor and reading the newspaper and trying to digest every stat possible. And I'd have my Dave Campbell's magazine there, and I'd be having my notepad and writing notes. And I was a big dork. So my wife looked at me and she's like, "I don't know how you got married to me, but because you were a nerd." And I was like, "Yeah, I was a nerd." So I own it, right? I'll take it and own it. So I think we're kind of similar in a lot of ways. The guys that are in this business, especially that aren't traditional journalists, the one thing we have in common is we're all big dorks.
For sure. You get they give me stuff all the time. I can rattle off.
Speak for yourself, nerds.
03 about something totally irrelevant, and then I have a hard time remembering like actual work stuff that pays me. So
hey, well, I don't know if we ever talked about how you got your nickname, right, Spud? Did we ever talk about that? Have we talked about that before?
No, we have not.
So
you guys, I'm not sure you want to talk about it.
You guys, it's not bad. I mean, you guys have heard. Everybody's heard me call. I mean, when we had the radio show, the podcast, and we're doing this, I always call you Spud. Everybody calls you Spud, right? So, it kind of piggies back on the nerd story, right? Why does everybody call you Spud?
I got into a conversation at work my first day out there, and we were talking about weird, I guess, football facts, and I popped off that I read somewhere that Jared Zabransky of Boise State could chunk a potato 100 yards. Now, through the years, that's gotten translated to I said he could throw a football 100 yards and all kinds of stuff.
I was told you could throw a potato 100 yards. That's what I was told.
See, that's what the story. That's where it grew, right? Like they said I could throw a potato 100 yards. No, the real thing was I was talking about Jared Zabransky being able to throw a potato 100 yards. And next thing I know, I come back to work, the older heads were like Spud, and it's stuck for 10 years, and it's probably going to continue to go on another 20. So.
Yep. If you get into coaching, You know, if you get into coaching, that's going to follow you there too. Hey, Spud, Coach
Sure.
Spud. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm
so
sure.
yeah, you know, today, I mean, just man, like 4 hours ago, we were talking about the difference between the wing T and Port Lavaca's option offense, and Justin was breaking it down, uh, just like a Lou Holtz breakdown on college game day. I mean, Spud knows his football.
There you
And he
go.
knows his X's and his O's. I'm more of the hype man. Let's keep the conversation going kind of guy, and Justin's the technical guy. Man, I hadn't, you know, I've been gone for a long time after I graduated high school. You know, went to college and then joined the military and was gone forever, and didn't really get back into college football or high school football until I moved back. Watching my nephew play, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what got us into there. And you know, just like we've talked about 100 times, you know, being at work, just talking nights and talking about football, and it's kind of led us to where we're at now.
Hey,
What other?
Time to kill.
I gotta go back on one thing. You said Everman, correct?
Yeah.
Now I might be getting confused here, but is that the same Everman team that beat Sinton in 2000 or 2001 for the state title?
2001 at Kyle Field. Yeah.
That is we were just talking about that game today at work with one of our buddies who's from Sinton.
Yeah, we were
So
trying to figure
I
out.
was
Funny.
I was in college. I was a junior in college when that game took place. So and one of the kid who lives across the street from my mom was one of the running backs on that Everman team. So yeah, that's where I went to school. Yeah, Everman
Wow.
Bulldog.
Small
Yeah,
world.
we were talking about that today because we were trying to figure out the list of sitting coaches around that time, and you know, we work with a hometown heavy hitter from Sit Carson Cave, local legend around these parts. So we always give him a hard time because he acts like he doesn't pay attention to this stuff, but he
He'll name
does.
you. He can tell you
Oh, big
what
time.
seventh graders are doing, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I went to Sinton for a game this year, and those folks are passionate, man. They know their ball.
Yeah.
They're and they have great teams just about every year, and they're it's a fun place to cover a game. I enjoyed my visit to Sinton this year. It was a lot of fun.
You know,
That's
and
actually
it's come back. You know, Troutman has really, you know, those last couple of years with Tom Allen there. You know, they kind of struggled a little bit for you know, for obvious reasons with Coach Allen's illness and whatnot. Um, but you know, Troutman's really reignited that fire, and him being alumni, and you know, I played little league baseball with Troutman, and I knew his parents. We grew up together, and you know, the first day we went out to go see him, he's like, "Are you from Odom?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. I didn't know if you'd remember me or not."
Was
And
Troutman as intense a little league player as he is a coach? Because that dude is intense.
no, it must have developed in high school, you know, because we
Okay.
both lived in Odom, but he went to school in Sinton. Um, and his dad was a superintendent here and the business manager here, but his mom was a teacher there in Sinton. And no, man, I remember him playing little league. He was sorry, coach. He wasn't nearly as intense as he is now. I think he developed that in high school and at Sol Ross, but
Okay. Yeah.
man, he is.
He'll get you to run through a brick wall. I'll tell you that. He'll
Oh,
get you to run through a brick wall.
and I don't know if you've met his wife, Matt, but you know, his wife's a softball coach there,
I
and
knew she was a coach. I knew she was a softball coach.
she is just as intense as he is. It's like if it's off with him, it's on with her, and vice versa. I wouldn't want to be in the same room where they're both going together. Um,
Man,
yeah,
I don't know if they have arguments or not very often, but I bet those are intense when those two get after it. 'Cause they're
Oh.
yeah. I knew she was a coach. I didn't know she was as intense as him, and she may be more intense than he is.
They
Yeah.
said she's actually more intense than all the local media members you'll talk to. They'll say she's more intense than he is, which is mind blowing because I haven't been around her. It's been going on like that, right? But no, that's actually what got that combo going about Everman and everything was we were making this. We were just talking, you know, football, and I was like, you know, as good of a football program, and like you seem like Sinton's always up there. Like when you think of Cueros and Wimberleys and like, you know, Carthage big name schools. Down here, Sinton is one of them, like Calallen, and
Sure.
that was one of the ones was, you know, I was driving by there the other day and I was thinking to myself, you know, honestly, I do not think they've ever gotten a state title. So that's what sparked the combo today of the Everman and Sinton state game, and which is kind of surprising because you'd have thought they might would have grabbed one like in the 80s, 70s range.
Mhm.
They were powerhouse and as well.
I think they got the championship game was this, and then the next year I think they lost in the quarterfinals to Burnett when Burnett had McGee and Shipley.
Yes,
because
at
Everman
Buckhead.
played. Yeah, because Everman played Burnett the next week at the Alamo Dome in the state championship and beat him again. Beat Burnett. Everman won back-to-back titles those 2 years. So, but that was a great Sinton team, man. That was Adrian Alaniz and Marcus Charles and Jason Britton, who's now the head coach in Angleton, was on that team. Kurt Jones, defensive end. And they were a really, really good ball club. And Brandon Salone, I think, was on that team. They were a great Senton ball club, and they had Everman on the ropes for sure. That was a great Everman team, one of the best ones of all time in Class 3A. And that Senton team had Everman on the ropes, and Everman had to come back in the fourth quarter. And when they got a controversial touchdown late in the game, that kind of put the game away. And the Senton folks still say that Theo Miller didn't catch the football, but the ball hit the ground, and it might have hit the ground. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm glad the refs got that one wrong. As an Everman grad, I'm glad they missed that call.
Sorry, Sidden, but 5 turnovers in the second half isn't going to help.
No,
it isn't going to help the cause
not
either.
Against Everman. No.
Yeah, they were up 17-0 is what we were told today. We had Carson
no, it was
a little flashback.
Yeah, it was 14-0 in the first half, and then Everman made it 14-6, and then Senton muffed a punt, and Everman threw a touchdown pass right after that, and it kind of just completely flipped the game right then and there. So it was great. It was a rainy, drizzly day in College Station. It was fun for me as an Everman fan. I'll tell you that. I remember Senton bringing a great crowd. They had a huge crowd.
Yeah, they travel well. They do travel well.
Yes, they do.
So we're kind of going all over the place right now, but you guys, there's been a lot of updates right recently, right? A couple of days ago, Dave Campbell passed away.
Yeah.
Right. So how's that going around over there right now?
Obviously Mr. Campbell was 96 years old. So I don't want to say we were shocked by it, because when you're at an advanced age like that, it's not something that's unexpected. It's just the circle of life, right? But when we found out that Mr. Campbell had taken a turn, we were obviously hoping for the best and hoping that he would pull through, because he's from the greatest generation, and people don't realize Mr. Campbell. I mean, they think of Dave Campbell's Texas football. I mean, the man's a war hero. I mean, he's a Bronze Star in World War II. The 3 years that he lived in Waco 93 years of his life, and the 3 years he didn't live in Waco is when he was in the Army. I believe he was stationed in France and Germany for the most part, and earned a Bronze Star in World War II. So I mean, he was a great husband, a great grandfather, a great father, a great grandfather. I mean, he was an unbelievable person, and one of the most humble and nice men that you would ever meet. And the state of Texas and the world is worse off now than it was when he was with us, because he was such a good man. And his memory, I didn't meet Mr. Campbell in person until he was 91. As when I started working for Dave Campbell's, he was already 91 years old. But even then in his 90s, he was pretty sharp. He would go to a lot of Baylor sporting events and ask questions at press conferences. He was still a great writer. And the thing about it at coaching school, when he would sign those magazines for people, is he would always try to put some sort of personal touch on signing every coach's magazine. He might, if you knew the mascot, he might say, have a great season, Panthers, or something like that. Or if it was a new school and maybe he didn't know what the mascot was, because, been a lot of new schools at it since he retired from the game in the 80s. He might ask what their mascot was, or if you have a son, if the coach says he has a kid that plays, he'll say, what number is your son? And he'll write something personal on each and every magazine. And he would get tired. I mean, he was in his 90s, right? I mean, he would get worn down, but he would stay and sign all those magazines. He would not want to leave, and he looked forward to going to coaching school every year. And he was just a really great, a visionary, a great man. And I wouldn't be in the place that I'm in now if he hadn't started Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine on his wife's kitchen table in 1959. And that magazine lost $5,000 in its first year. And you think about $5,000 in 1960, that's a lot of money. And he stayed with it, and we're all better that he stuck with it and persevered.
I have one of those magazines. I have I should have pulled it out. I didn't even think about it, but I have it. I'll pull it out this week and see if I can get a photo. But 2010, we were on my senior team. We were in the Dave Campbell Football Classic at the Alamo Dome against PNG, and he came down to the field house. We actually went to HEB, I think. And that's where we got our magazines. I have a photo somewhere my parents got of me and Dave, and then he signed his name, and he signed a personal thing. I want to say it was Good Luck Justin on the 2010 season. I have to get the photo of it and find it, but yeah, he did do personal touches. You're right.
Yeah, that was the kind of man that he was, and he it was important to him, and he knew how important Texas high school football was to the fabric of the community, and all those things were important. It just shows what kind of person he was. That he went through the time signing thousands and thousands of magazines and making sure that people got a personal touch. But he was a really nice man. Like you would not know that he was the legend that he was, because he was a very unassuming, was unassuming man for sure. But the status that he had, you could tell when he was around football people, you knew he was important because of the way that they revered him.
I put it on Twitter the other day, and it's something that I firmly believe, and I'm pretty sure more everybody in the state or anybody that's come into contact with him is, we could only hope to leave a legacy like he's left. His legacy is going to outlive every one of us.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And future generations, because this magazine's not going to go anywhere.
No, and that's one thing that that's one thing at Dave Campbell's that we do. And I think Greg Tepper touched on. Our goal at Dave Campbell's is to do right by Mr. Dave, and we try our best to make sure that we give the coverage that the state deserves, and we try to put out content in the magazine that Mr. Dave would approve of. So, his name is, for anybody wondering, magazine will still be printed. We'll still have a magazine. Trust me, we did not have Mr. Campbell editing and writing high school football previews into his 90s. Like we let Mr. Dave have his retirement and rest. He was our editor in chief emeritus, and he still had that title. But we took care of the magazine for him. Let him enjoy his golden years. So the magazine will still be printed, and it will always have Dave Campbell's name on it. That's one thing that is important to us, and his name and that signature and that familiar signature and logo will like you said, Jake, will last long after we're all gone. So that legacy people will remember Dave Campbell a lot longer than they'll remember Matt Stepp or Greg Tepper or anybody else. And that's just the kind of man that he was, and deservedly so.
Yeah, or these two clowns right here.
It's kind of crazy how that it transpired from a magazine that lost $5,000 to what it is now. I mean, y'all are partnered up with streaming services like Texan Live that covers games. Y'all have you and Tepper covering games, big ones at state championship week. You have other editors that go out throughout the state like y'all do throughout it's just kind of crazy how it went from a magazine on a kitchen table to what it is now. I mean, Dave Campbell has a huge platform just on the internet outside of the magazine, that has great stuff that, I follow throughout the year, and it's just kind of neat how it took off.
Yeah, because Mr. Campbell, when he started the magazine, he had a full-time job. He was the sports editor at the Waco Tribune Herald. So the magazine was kind of a yearly thing, and I want to say that in the 70s he kind of put out like a newsletter that would come out, and I have no idea how people got it. I don't know if he mailed it or if in the 80s he would fax the newsletter out to people, but he had a weekly newsletter and those types of things. And then after he retired, the internet started to come on board, and I think through trial and error, the various editors of Dave Campbell's Texas Football kind of figured out how to navigate the internet. And when Greg hired Max Thompson a few years ago, that really helped our online presence and kind of solidified the Dave Campbell's brand in the internet space. And doing the daily show like Texas Football Today every day at noon, all the other stuff that we do on the internet and covering high school football year round, I think has really helped our brand kind of go to the next level. Instead of just being an annual magazine, we're now an annual magazine plus year-round content.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually just got, and I meant to bring it in here, but it's too far a walk now. I'm not going to interrupt the show. But I got the recruiting update yesterday.
Thank you for being a subscriber. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hopefully the subscription is worth it.
Yeah, so far. And then, it helps with the Texan Live stuff now because you can roll that in there now. You don't have to create a whole new account for that because I'm going to be realistic. I cancel my subscription every time the playoffs are over.
I understand. I get it.
I get it. Really a need to keep it all.
Now
year.
We got it all rolled into one. It kind of makes sense to keep it, and
yeah.
you pay for it one time, and you're done with it, and then in June you get your magazine before everybody else.
So shameless plug. Yeah, shameless plug for the magazine and for being a Texas insider. It is well worth it.
because when you get that magazine before everybody else, you kind of got that thing and you're kind of waving it around at work like, hey, boys, what's up? Look what I got,
Oh
you know?
yeah, I think that's honestly, and another shameless plug for us. I think that's when we start gaining our followers. Is when we start screenshotting pictures of it and stuff like that. The followers start rolling in. Hey, where'd you get it? Hey, and the DMs start coming in. Hey, well, what about this? What is they saying about us? Hey, send me our preview. Uh,
Tell them to subscribe and get a magazine. That's what I say. The
Oh
game ain't
man.
for free.
So what other updates? The biggest one, I guess the elephant in the room that's hanging in today, the biggest one for us, anyways, is Coach Danaher's announced retirement yesterday. Kind of a shocker for a lot of folks, but if you really start asking folks, it was kind of expected. People
Yeah,
kind of expected
yeah.
it to come.
We kind of knew, that Coach Danaher, I knew that something was up when Coach Danaher wasn't at coaching school. He is at coaching school every year and is a popular dude at coaching school. He's making the rounds and he's a legend, and so people want to, I remember there was one time when him and Dave Campbell were sitting at our in our booth talking, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of football knowledge right there when those two guys were sitting there chatting. And then Cornell Thompson from West Orange Stark moseyed over, and it was just added to it. It was three legends sitting at a table. And ironically,
Who?
Coach Thompson
Yeah.
retired the same day that Coach Danaher did. But so I knew something was a little amiss there when Coach Danaher was not at coaching school, and then we kind of got word through some back channels that during the season, if we were really in need of something from Calallen, that we were instructed to reach out to Coach Campbell, which is not normal. I'll just say, it's not normal. It's not a normal thing to say, hey, if you need something, go through the assistant coach. So we kind of knew, got some, just it's made sense that Coach Danaher was health was not in the best of shape, and so we want Coach Danaher to be around as long as possible. We want him to get well and get healthy, and I'm sure the stress and the wear and tear of being an athletic director, head football coach, at his age, probably wore on him a little bit. So hopefully, we're hoping Coach Danaher gets some rest, gets well, and gets that knee replacement taken care of, and hopefully, come next football season, he's back in the stands enjoying some Calallen Wildcat football. Because I'm sure if he's feeling up to it, he'll be at a lot of football games.
They it was a big enough story that all the local news stations, that was their lead story. It wasn't the news. It was a sports story, and it was
Oh
about
yeah,
his retirement. And
deservedly so. He's a legend, and he's a legend in the state of Texas. But more importantly, to the Corpus Christi community, he's a legend on the coastal bend. And so I think his retirement was worthy of all the local news stations leading off with it. I mean, the
yeah,
man's got almost 500. He has 490 wins. I mean,
yeah,
that's incredible. The consistency, longevity, and the consistent excellence. Yeah, he didn't win a state championship, and that's the one knock on his resume. He didn't win a state championship, but the decades of excellence and good football that the teams that the Calallen Wildcats produce year in and year out, I think is something that shouldn't be overlooked. And so he's a deserved Hall of Famer, and his fault. I mean, there were some great Calallen games that I saw where his teams maybe didn't win, but they punched so far above their weight it wasn't even funny. And the 20, I think it's 2011, 2012 Manville game at the Alamo Dome in the semifinals, they played Manville in the state semifinals. It was 2011, I think, and you would have just taken a picture of Calallen, taken a picture of Manville, and just said who's going to win this game. You'd have been like Manville by 50. They were bigger, they were huge, they had more kids, they were massive compared to Calallen. And it was a masterclass in coaching and execution and game planning from Coach Danaher and his staff. And they almost pulled I think Calallen had to kick a field goal right at the end of the game to win the game. And I think that field goal was under some controversial terms. I think there was a personal foul that was a late hit on a quarterback. I think that was called that put Manville into field goal range to win that game, if I remember correctly.
That was exactly it.
And it was a bang bang call. Let's put it that way. And it was disputed for sure. And then the state championship game against Toledo, everyone's saying Calallen's going to get beat by 28 points, and one or two breaks here and there, and Calallen wins that football game. They lost by 9, but they played out of their minds in that game. So those two games are kind of the for me benchmarks in Coach Danaher's career. Just proof of the the coaching excellence that he and his coaching staff year in and year out put together at Calallen.
Hey,
You know,
they never lost. The time just ran out on them.
Yeah,
They
that's
lost the
what it
time.
was.
hey, take it easy,
Yeah.
take it easy.
Hey,
Now. Pump the brakes.
Hey, you know how I feel being I'm a GP Bobcat. I hate Calallen, right? That's the cliche. I hate him. I wouldn't help him out if I had to, but ton of respect for Coach Danaher. Like I even more respect, I think, after watching his interviews on his going out. Kind of touching on why he stayed with the game so long and whatnot. But I think my most memorable Calallen game for me watching was not only that Alito game, but the College Station game before the Alito game. They were outmanned and they were definitely punching above their belt the whole game. And that was probably one of the best. I will say that to me was one of the best just called games by a coach I've sit there and witnessed, because everything they did was just enough to, get right by College Station and win that game. And, if you're just a fan of the game, it's games like that make it worth going to watch. And that was probably one of my most memorable games I got to watch Coach Danaher call. And I've watched a lot of games of his.
You've seen a lot. I know. I haven't seen near as many Calallen games as you have, but yeah, it's a loss for the coaching community. But like everything, it's Father Time is undefeated, and eventually we're all gonna hit that point where we can't do it anymore. So you just try to do it as long as you can and as long as you enjoy it. And so that's what Coach Danaher did. He did it as long as he could, and now I'm hoping he gets some rest and can go enjoy football from a different perspective now.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess the next update we've got, and it's the next biggest one, is realignment. Right.
Yeah.
So Matt kind of lit off a firestorm with his mock districts for the realignment, and
another nerdy thing that I do is realignment. Realignment's a big nerd energy right there.
That is massive nerd energy.
Based off the cutoffs because this is the second, right, version 2.0, right? Because the first round you did, man, they were very close.
Wasn't far off.
The anticipated cutoffs.
Good. Yeah, I feel pretty good. So then I adjusted my alignments based on the cutoffs that the UIL did release. So I did that. And that was pretty easy because I didn't have to make too many changes, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I knew the cutoff. The thing for you guys, I was watching in your area because we knew CCISD was going to opt up their Division II schools into Division I, and I personally don't agree with that philosophy, but that's what Corpus Christi does. That's what CCISD does. It is what it is. I think it's a disservice to their Division II schools.
It is.
But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, that's just what they're going to do. So really, what I was looking at for your area specifically was where that 5A, 4A cutoff was going to be, because I thought Alice was going to be right on that cut line. Alice was the one that I was watching. At first I was watching GP and Bluff. Were they going to opt up? Or are they not going to opt up? And so I'm actually personally glad they're not opting up this year. I think, it's going to help both of them playing in Division II instead of Division I. Now, yes, they are going to have to travel some in district. Whether or not they travel to the Valley or travel to San Antonio area is yet to be determined. I believe in my alignment, I had them going to the Rio Grande Valley, kind of going down Highway 77 there. And it's a little bit of travel, but it's not a lot. I mean, it's basically the same as going to San Antonio. I mean, it's really not much difference. In the drive, it's probably less traffic. I think it's going to be good for GP and Bluff, because especially later in the playoffs, they're not having to play, schools that have 2,000, 2,100 kids. They're going to be, especially Bluff, they're going to be one of the bigger Division II schools. So I think it will help both those schools come playoff time. And they already did good in Division I, so I think they'll be fine. But Alice was the one that I was really watching. That was kind of the swing school, and for Alice's sake, I think it's a good thing they're under the cutoff, and they're going to be remaining in Class 4A for another 2 years. Not just in football, but all their sports should benefit from it. So I think we're going to see kind of a all Coastal Bend 4A district again. The question is going to be, I think, is will Beeville be with those guys, or is Beeville going to go north up to San Antonio? Because Rockport Fulton's moving up from Division II to Division I. So you imagine Rockport Fulton going to jump into that district. So I think the big question is going to be, where does Beeville go? But it should be a fun district. You have Alice, you got Calallen, you got TM, you got Rockport right there. It should be a lot of fun. And then Calhoun's the other one I think that I'm watching. I think Calhoun stays with the Coastal Bend schools, but they could also go north, and Beeville could come south. So kind of, or they both could be in there actually if we travel. So you never know.
The one of the interesting things that I saw. So, what does the UIL when they make their decision, do they take into account the district size? Like, man, those San Antonio districts, because San Antonio can't stop building schools. I was looking at your last realignment, and because there's so many there, you've got Wagner in Region 3.
Yeah. The way, especially the split divisions in 5A, as things kind of move around, the population demographic shift. We have San Antonio districts in Region 3 now, and that kind of thing. So I think that'll probably continue to happen, especially with West Texas in Division 2 going from 2 districts to 1 district. So when you look at that, I think what happens is El Paso area loses a district, everything kind of shifts up, and Rio Grande Valley may have 2 districts, and one of those 2 districts might include GP and Bluff. So you just have to kind of manage it with the demographics of each school. There's certain rules the UIL has when it comes to realignment, especially when you look at the larger school districts. They try to keep, Northside ISD in San Antonio, they have 12 schools. Well, they can't put 12 schools in a district. They got to split them up.
Right.
Cy-Fair ISD in Houston is another one. It's like CCISD. If all their schools opt up, well, the 6 CCISD schools are all going to be in the same district. So you kind of know that going in, and then you kind of work around it with the one school ISDs and kind of place them where they need to go.
I liked your mock-up of the 7A edition that you posted today.
Yeah.
Now, obviously there wasn't a lot in depth, but just looking at the breakdown of it, because everyone's been spewing off, we need to go to 7A, we need a 7A, we need a 7A. I never really looked at it on paper. And then whenever you posted it today, I was like, yeah, I could dig this. I
can't wait.
A lot of 5A schools. I mean,
yeah. So you think about it, right? So the UIL first kind of talked about 7A for the first time publicly at coaching school last year. And you think about it. So in 6A, there's basically 250 spots, right? In essence, right? And then in 5A, there's about 250 spots. So you've got those 500 spots in 6A and 5A. It's a pretty finite number. I mean, with 32 districts, there's only so many. You can't put 10 teams in every district, right? So you got a kind of a finite number of about 250, give or take, in 6A and 5A. Well, think about it. When new schools are built, they, in these metro areas, especially, they don't build them as 3A schools. They build them as 5A and 6A schools. So you just keep dumping more and more schools into that 5A and 6A pot. Well, what happens is it just grows and grows and grows, and then it grows into class 4A. And that's why you have schools like Alice all of a sudden now in 4A because that cutoff, because it just keeps getting bloated in 5A and 6A. And then what happens in 4A is now in the other sports, you have schools with Bishop with 545 kids is potentially going to be in the same district with Alice, who has 1,300 kids. It's a huge difference in the other sports trying to compete. And so that gap has continued to widen. And so I think taking 7A and adding it is like a pressure valve, right? You kind of release some of the pressure out of that valve, and it enables those largest schools to flow into 7A, and then it creates room in 6A and 5A, which will trickle down into more manageable cutoffs in 4A and below. Now, the first few years, you might have some smaller districts, that kind of thing in 4A, but I think people will trade out the smaller districts for more equitable competition.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't wait. I'm going to release my district. I've actually completed the realignment this evening, and I'm going to release it. I'm not going to release it this week with there's something going on in Arlington this week that's going to kind of take the attention of everyone. But after state, probably after the new year, I'm going to release my mock 7A. And it's going to go from 7A all the way down to 2A Division 2. And it's just a look. I'm using the 2022 numbers, but it's just to give people an idea that, hey, this can work and it is manageable. And so I'm excited to release that for people to see it.
I'll be looking forward to that one again with the nerd energy.
Yeah.
The travel, that's gonna. The big thing. Let's take a couple steps back. You're talking about CCSD. Opting everybody up, and the argument you always hear for that is travel. It's a travel budget. It's a travel budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't really buy that argument because after football, 5A is 5A, right?
Yes.
So you're gonna make a couple of road trips during the football season. You got 10 games, 5 games are at home, right? So you're gonna have a couple games that are close, and a couple away games that are close, a couple that are far away. I saw
Yeah.
somebody chimed in with you about junior varsity and junior high. They don't necessarily have to play that district schedule.
No,
Um,
I mean, yeah, I guess for if CCISD didn't opt everyone up, you might have an expanded travel budget for vets. But you look at it, they're probably going to go to Victoria. They're probably going to be in a district with 2 Victoria schools and probably with some San Antonio schools. And I don't think that travel budget is going to be expanded by that much by not opting your schools up. And I think the trade off is additional success for your Division II schools and potential of picking up an extra playoff spot or two, and then generating that playoff revenue. So, I think, yeah, I mean, I would think CCISD would want to spend a little bit more money on travel for vets in order to have their other 5 schools have a little bit more equitable competition. That's my perspective on it. It's not my
yeah,
money, but
yeah,
it's,
that is
it's what
true.
I would do. It's what I would do. But I from a financial standpoint, and I don't know the ins and outs of CCISD's finances, but just from the outside looking in, I feel like that cost is worth it to help the other 5 schools out. It just feels like those other 5 schools are being sacrificed to help veterans out, and I think that's where some of that animosity
Hey,
within
hey, you better watch it.
CCISD.
You better watch your tone there, Matt, because you're gonna get some hate mail on that one.
Yeah, but I mean,
Uh,
I think that's why that animosity from the other 5 CCISD schools is, and it's not Vets' fault. Vets
yeah,
isn't making those decisions. I don't blame Vets for that. I mean, they're just doing what they're told. But I think that's where that animosity from King and Ray and Carroll and Miller towards Vets comes from. Is that they all feel like CCISD is catering to Vets at their expense, and I can understand why they feel that way.
Oh, just the whole coastal bend in general. I mean, I really don't know of a fan base outside of vets that doesn't root for those guys when they've been further along in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest fire right there underneath that hate is that right there. They feel like everyone else got sacrificed. And I think a little bit will come back when Carroll gets built. The new Carroll, I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a nice game changer because I'm hoping because I enjoy Carroll just based off the history of them.
It's
I think
traditionally been, since I've been alive, the strongest CCISD program.
hands down. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that brings back a little bit down to earth, and then of course, you have London that's right on the outside of Corpus that me and Jacob have been watching for a while now, and they're slowly putting together numbers and more people are moving out that way, and they're not under the control of CCISD, so it's almost like a Flower Bluff Calallen situation where if you just despise CCISD, you got another relief valve to go to, and honestly, they're building a pretty decent program out there.
yep.
So
Yeah,
I
Coach
think that
Marino's did a heck of a
help
job down there.
definitely. So I think that will help a little bit with some of this, and hopefully maybe make CCSD kind of start to rethink some of the decisions they've been making.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
mean, you lose students, you lose money,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
In large scheme of things, you lose students, you lose money. Because not everybody can afford to live out in London. That's the other part, right? So I don't know if they still have an open campus. But I
Well, and they
imagine,
can't, and you don't want all the students going to Vets because if all the students go to Vets, guess what happens? They go 6A,
yeah,
and I don't
yeah,
know if they want that either.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, we,
yeah.
we won't talk about the man behind the curtain on that one, right? Because there's all kinds of rumors going on with that one
Oh
too,
yeah, oh
right?
yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you're aware. Uh, so what's your week like this week?
So I'm working tomorrow, and I will go straight from my day job, which is not that far from. I work near DFW Airport, so it's 10 minutes to AT&T Stadium. I'll work, and then head straight over to the stadium, get my credentials, and go up to our perch, the Dave Campbell's perch there in the press box, and I'll get myself set up. And basically, you can just imprint me in the chair for 4 days. I'll be there watching football. I mean, I do. We do a lot during the state championships. We do post game video reactions. We're a well oiled machine. It's one thing Tepper and Pickle really do a great job is they give we have a decent sized team, and we've all got responsibilities and jobs to do, and we try to go out and execute it as best we can. So my job during the game I'm big on Twitter, so I will. That's a humble brag, I guess. But I'm the Twitter guy, so I'm gonna tweet out like game analysis from the scene, kind of what's going on. I mean, because everyone's tweeting the score, right? I mean, no one needs to know the score of the game. I mean, everyone knows they're watching the game. So I try to tweet out maybe some analysis or things that I'm seeing during the game, and then post game, myself and Ashley Pickle will record an instant reaction video, and we'll put that up on social media real quick after the game. And then usually there's about 20 or 30 minutes where I have some downtime, so that's when I'll usually if coaches are texting me, want to go come say hi or whatever, I'll go down and say hi to coaches, that kind of thing. And then come back up to the press box about 10 minutes before the game and get ready for the next one, and rinse and repeat 10 times during the week. And then we have a Saturday morning. I know that Dave Campbell's team, we're doing a subscriber meet and greet where we will be at Texan Live, and we'll we have 200 tickets for it, and we'll have breakfast tacos and those kind of, not as good as South Texas breakfast tacos, but we'll have some breakfast tacos, and we'll meet some of our subscribers and that kind of thing. And
I was just going to hit on that, is that I had got my email today for this meet and greet, and that's like our goal, right? Is to make it out to the state championships, but man, we're so low on the totem pole vacation wise that we can't get these weeks off.
Because it's Christmas time, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's difficult. So
I miss it by 2 days. I miss my vacation by 2 days.
Maybe next year. I'll tell you this. I tweeted this out earlier. If you haven't been, the state football championships are really, if you're a sports fan, it's a bucket list item, and if you're a football fan, it's an even bigger bucket list item. If you're a high school football fan, it's the bucket list item to go to. It's an unbelievable event. It's not that. I mean, you think about it. $20 tickets for three games per day is not that bad. You're spending $60 for 10 games. Yeah. If you go to all, or I guess $80 for 10 games. Or if you want to see the 6-man games, you're spending $80 for 12 games. It's not, it's like $7 a ticket. So you can, it's affordable. It's a chance, if you haven't been to AT&T Stadium, to come out and see the stadium. It's 10, 12 years old now. It's still an awesome facility. They keep up. It's really clean. Cowboys do a great job hosting the event. It's just a bucket list event. It's just fun to sit there and park and watch the best high school football in the world for 3 or 4 days straight.
Yeah.
I got a chance.
It's just so far away for everybody, Matt.
Oh.
I get it. I understand. I do. But I will say the UIL's made a good point that for the teams playing, I think I did the research for like a 40-year period. If you took the teams playing and measured their distance between AT&T, NRG, and the Alamo Dome, in 40 years, in 39 of the 40 years, AT&T Stadium has been the most central location for the schools playing. There was 1 year San Antonio was the most central spot. But other than that, it's been AT&T Stadium. So generally speaking, AT&T Stadium is the most, for the fans of the teams playing, the most centrally located game. I would personally love to see the Alamo Dome get into the mix every couple of years, just because I love an excuse to go to San Antonio. And I love the Alamo Dome press box. It's awesome. But I get it. I mean, AT&T Stadium is the best football stadium in Texas. And if you want to have the best football event in the state of Texas, it makes sense to have it at the best football stadium in Texas.
Well, it is the newest one, right? So,
yeah,
we were talking about this when we were talking about the Sinton game earlier. It's like, we like the anarchy where the state championship games were held everywhere. Just like you said, Sinton and Eversman's played in College Station. San Antonio or Alamo Heights had a home game when they won
played
state.
Copper's Cove. Robert Griffin. I was at that game.
With Robert with RG3, and that was actually cool when you did that. But yeah, I get it. It makes sense. You want to make it an event. You can't have all these news crew or television crews all at the same time. More than likely, some of these games are going to be played at the same time, so it's a hindrance from a viewer standpoint. So,
I remember when we had that kind of anarchy. I remember, usually you only get ones. I mean, because everybody would play on Saturday afternoon, so you could only see one game. You had to pick which game you were going to go to. So, like a Friday night state championship game was like gold, because it's like, oh my gosh. I remember I went and watched Cuero and Abilene Wiley play Friday night in Baylor one year, and I was super fired up that it was a state championship game on Friday, because those were rare. So I get it, but I personally like it being in one place because I like to see everybody and I can see every game. So And I think it's cool that Valley gets to broadcast them, and they can broadcast all the games and show the look. So I think that's cool as well. Now, I know Valley and the contracts with the Who's Got Valley and that kind of thing.
When is that going to get renewed, man? Because that's putting a real big hindrance in my viewership right now.
Yeah, we can't. I don't have it. I can't watch.
I'm about to have to go AT&T Direct or something for like the week.
Yeah, if you could. Last year there was somebody running a special where you could pick it up for like a week, like a free trial for a week, and you would be looking for be looking out for those.
That was on my thing to do today. That was on my list of things to do today, and I didn't do it. I'm gonna have to do it like first thing in the morning. But I agree with you though. As much as it kind of as I would like to see it bounce, honestly, NRG can bite me. Everything about the Houston Texans organization, the way they run NRG, they couldn't pay me to go sit in that stadium and watch it.
And they're not even hosting.
I was gonna say they didn't host any playoff games this year, right?
Playoff games, nothing, dude. They are super anti-Texas football. It's honestly embarrassing, but I won't go into that. I do enjoy the fact that it's all at Arlen, or it's at Dallas. Dallas is probably one of the meccas to go to for most people. So it's a mecca for football.
Cowboys. I'm a Cowboys fan. So I'm biased.
And honestly, when he gave me his tickets for the Westlake and Southlake game last year, we did the 6.5 hour drive, and that was probably the most pumped up and energetic drive I had in my entire life. And I would do it in a heartbeat right now. If I could make it from work to there in time, I would go watch at least the 5As and 6As when we get off work on Friday afternoon, but I won't make it in time. So, but I mean, for real, like I wish it would come down this way, but I get it. And I mean, it is kind of worth the drive because you can make honestly, that's a vacation for me. My wife disagrees, but
take her shopping. Just take her shopping in Dallas.
Take her to
She actually enjoyed it last year because she'd never been to AT&T, and I didn't really enjoy so much the seating because of the COVID.
Yeah.
I really wish we would have been able to get lower bowl for such just massive game that was Westlake and Southlake.
Well, I ended up buying the tickets last minute, right? I wasn't going to go, and then I didn't end up going. That's how you got them, but that's all that was left were the upper level seats.
Worth every penny though, and worth sitting up in the nosebleeds to watch that game live.
Well, this year, back to general admission. You can sit wherever you want, and just it'll be, it's a lot, back to 2019 again. So that's a good thing.
What is your takes on the state games this week? Because I mean, I know you've been looking at it and whatnot.
So I think it's a great slate. I think the slate of games is from, I don't really cover 6-man ball, but talking to 6-man, people, they think the 2 6-man games are going to be great. I think Shiner's going to handle Hawley. Doug and Dalton Brooks are just a different beast.
Definitely.
I think Stratford and Falls City's a pick'em game, but I like Stratford in that one. I think 3AD2, Franklin and Gunner is the best game for me of the weekend. I picked Gunner to win, but Franklin could easily win that ball game. And 3AD2 should be a 2-15-0 team, should be a fantastic game. 3AD1, Brock and Lorena is going to be a shootout. I like Brock, but I think it's going to be an absolute shootout between those two, high scoring. Two teams that can throw the football all over the yard. 4AD2 is probably my number 2 game of the weekend. With China Spring and Gilmer, I think it's going to be China Spring handled Gilmer Cordero pretty easily last week. I think Gilmer is going to be a tough matchup for them. 2 really big fan bases. I think we'll have a great crowd for that game. 4AD1, Stephenville and LBJ, 2 15-0 teams. Can Stephenville handle LBJ's speed, and how does LBJ handle the AT&T Stadium environment, being on the big stage? That should be fun. 2 15-0. Number 1 versus number 2 in 4AD1. 5AD2 is kind of, for me, Saturday morning, kind of the main event with South Oak Cliff taking on Liberty Hill. The Golden Bears are kind of, they've kind of captured the imagination of the entire city of Dallas. I'm expecting a massive crowd.
I'm pumped about it. I mean, that's a home game for those guys, right? I mean, it's a home game.
Yeah, I think South Oak Cliff may bring 30,000 people by themselves. Like, it's the entire city. It's going to be bonkers on Saturday morning when South Oak Cliff plays Liberty Hill. I was in Abilene Friday for the South Oak Cliff Lubbock Cooper game, and I thought South Oak Cliff's crowd would be relatively small because the Channel 8, the ABC station in Dallas broadcast the game for free on the internet. And so I was like, it's 3 hours from Dallas to Abilene, from South Oak Cliff to Abilene is 3 hours. They're not going to make the drive to Abilene to watch the game. And South Oak Cliff, Shotwell Stadium holds 15,000 people, so it's 7,500 on both sides. South Oak Cliff had their side full.
Wow.
7,500 people, 3-hour drive. So you can imagine how many you're going to take a 30-minute drive to Arlington on Saturday.
Just go watch them play in Arlington, right?
Yeah, it's going to be bonkers. And then you get Duncanville North Shore Part 3. Can Reggie Samples get his first ever state championship? It's kind of funny. This year the roles are reversed, right? When they played 2 years ago, Duncanville had to start a freshman quarterback against North Shore in that game. Well, now North Shore starting a freshman quarterback against Duncanville. Now, it's not his first start. He's been playing all year, but he's still a freshman and going up against that Duncanville defense. So I think Duncanville gets it done this time. It's going to be a great ball game. First 1 to 10 wins. Those are two nasty, nasty defenses. And then the finale, Geyer and Westlake. I hope it's a good game. I don't think it's going to be a good game. I think we're going to crown Westlake as the undisputed best team in the state of Texas. I saw Westlake on Saturday at Baylor just demolish Katy.
I was blown away. I have never seen Katy get handled.
Katy. I've seen Katy get beat. But when Katy gets beat, they go down fighting. And this time
they were
no contest.
flat-footed out there. Flat-footed.
Westlake is unbelievable. So I'm hoping Geyer surprises me, but I'm expecting Saturday night to be more of a coronation. In Todd Dodge's last game as a high school, Todd Dodge is retiring. So this will be his last game. So I think it's going to be more of a celebration of Todd Dodge and this Westlake three-peat.
Yeah, who's the home team in that game?
So this year, odd years, Region 3 and Region 4 are home teams. So all the Region 3, so whoever wins Region 3, Region 4 semifinal is the home team this year. Next year it flips. Region 1, Region 2 is the home team. So it flips every year.
So you could see the red unis again. The Westlake and the red unis for the home team.
Westlake's busting out the blue. They're blue. They wore blue last week. Their primary colors turning into blue, at least under Todd Dodge. They wore blue against Katy. Maybe it's because Katy's.
2 weeks ago, they were all red.
Flipped.
They went all red against who was it? Vandergrift. They went all red. I think it was more of a mentality thing because they were gunning on Vandergrift, calling them Walmart, Westlake, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think they probably wore blue because Katy's red, so they probably wore blue just to kind of have their own identity that game.
Yeah, I texted everyone I knew. I was like, I have never seen a Katy team get stretched that bad. I've seen them get beat, but not stretched like that. That was to me the telltale sign of wow.
All right. We got about 3 minutes left. I just want to end it with a little story, and it's not even relevant to football. Kind of it is, I guess, a little bit. We went to took a road trip to College Station last weekend. Take the family to Santa's Village. Is that what it's called, Spud? Santa's Village?
Yeah. Santa Land or Santa's Wonderland.
Something like that. Anyways, we had a lot of time to kill, right? Because I don't know if you've ever been in that place. It's hemmed up, and it's best to go set your parking time, get the reserved parking, do all that stuff. Because if you just show up, you're going to be waiting in line forever, right? So we had a late show time, so we took our time getting up there, and coming from Corpus up there, you hit back roads. It's 77 to Victoria and everywhere else, and then you kind of split off. We took a detour to Brenham, and Brenham's a hip little town, man. A very hip little town. They're rejuvenating the downtown there and everything. And we went because my wife, very fashion forward with things. There was a boutique there called the Ballad of the Bird Dog. Wrong way, right? Very hip store. Jared and Kathleen are the owners, and they're doing a very cool thing down there, trying to revitalize small town. And actually Texas Monthly did an article maybe last year, the year before, where these small towns around Texas are starting to boom again, with these folks getting out of city life, with a lot of these work from home things and people opening business. They're actually doing something very cool. I'm actually wearing one of their caps right here. They got a couple of bird dogs, and this is one of their dogs that's on their caps, probably their best-selling cap there. Very, very cool shop. Very, very genuine people. If you guys are ever going through Brenham, give them a look, man, or just hang out in downtown Brenham, man. Very, very cool. It's a whole lot better than, I guess what did it was the Listeria stuff at Bluebell, because once that place shut down, the town was like, what are we going to do? Right? Yeah. Which kind of started revitalizing their downtown and things like that. And it took something that wasn't very great for the city to actually make it grow. So it's actually very, very cool. So I recommend you guys, if you guys are around there, if any guys are listening, heading out that way, going to College Station for the Santa thing before Christmas is up, give it a stop. Check them out. Ballad of the Bird Dog. Guys, you guys got anything before we go?
I have one last thing.
Have me on.
Hey, how do you think Liberty Hill matches up against that South was it South Cliff Oak or
South Oak Cliff.
South Oak Cliff.
South, how do you think they match up against Sock?
We just call them sock. Yeah, we just call them sock. I think the slot T is going to be something that South Oak Cliff has to prepare for, and if they're not properly prepared and disciplined, I think Liberty Hill will run wild. You've got to be disciplined. And if you've never seen an offense before, it's a little shocking at first. You got to be prepared for it. I think Sock will win. I think they'll adjust and adapt on the fly, but it'll be a challenge. I think Liberty Hill's going to push them. They run that. They're the masters of that offense. And if you know anything about slot T, you know it's the devil.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wish we could see it. Wow. Anyways, thanks, Matt. I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff going on. You got a busy week this week. Thanks for taking the time to come on, man. We should have gotten this for the beginning. You know, Matt's been one of our guys that kind of started listening to us on from day one, really, and sent us some encouraging stuff as we started off, and we've kind of stuck with it. So we consider Matt a friend, not just a guest on the show. So, Matt, thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it. Justin, I'll see you tomorrow. I mean, no big deal. We'll be clowning it up tomorrow.
All right, man. You guys be good. Call if you need anything. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, will do, man. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Guys, thanks for watching, and we probably will not be back before the New Year. So same to you guys. You guys have a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year, and we'll see you around realignment time. Thanks for watching.